Hey everyone, welcome to Pop XP. And before the show starts, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content. And don't forget, if you can, make sure to share our stream on all your social media outlets. We appreciate it, and thanks for helping us grow the Pop XP channel. Hey, what is going on YouTube? It's the brain of the mainframe Nile with the Pop XP, and joining me as always is the teen sensation. He's never going to age, Mr. Billy Tucci, and the doctor's in the house. Everyone, fill in, message in, DM your prescription.
It's me. Not a doctor.
Sure. I like when people think you're a doctor, and you're like, dude, I just got this message from this guy asking me what this is.
Oh my god, keep losing sleep over the images that I just can't unsee now.
Oh no.
That's the life of a doctor, man. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Well, we're doing pretty good. I mean, I'm excited for the show that we have these two legends on the show with us. But as you said, we got some news, some sad news.
Yeah, some sad news today. So in the indie community, for those of you that follow us and pretty much the community that we're with on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, Geek Insiders, Meredith Laughlin passed away last night. She was a big supporter of indie comics, of indie creators. I pretty much saw her everywhere on my social media, as well as many others, and it's just a sad day. So
she would share the show, and
she would share the show. She was sharing the campaigns. Big supporter of Kickstarters, Indiegogos, and really did a lot out there to help the community and entertain, as well as help promote. For the little voices out there that are trying to make it. So we do want to just kind of honor her tonight in her memory. And, our condolences to her family, her friends, and, she's going to be missed. Yep. And then after that news, we hear about Brian Augustine passing away.
Augustine.
Yep. Brian Augustine. Yeah. And, DC editor, writer, and, man, I know.
Partner in crime of Humberto Ramos, man. Crimson. The whole, it's
just a great guy. Okay. It's a great loss for the industry. And I did a panel with
amazing.
Him. And, I've shared a few pops with him, in the bars and all, and just a great sense of humor and really talented guy. And it's just, like you said, what a loss. What a damn loss.
Yeah. What a day. I got all that news and literally, I think, Billy, I called you, right? And I was like, hey, Meredith passed. Then you're like, yeah. And then 15 minutes later, you text me like, hey, Brian passed. I'm like, geez, Louise. What is going on here? But anyways, we will honor their memory and everything that they've done. They're timeless now with their creations. Those will live on forever. And we've got a great show tonight, guys. I mean, this is an exciting show, which just happens to, we got it right here. I mean, we got Andrew Wilson in the house that just, popped up a little Image Comics 30 years.
Yeah. And that's one of today, right?
And a couple of our guests tonight know a little thing about Image Comics, which is just a great coincidence. But they have an awesome campaign right now that is now live on Indiegogo. It started funding, I believe, on Kickstarter, and they rolled it over in Indiegogo to reach a wider audience. And Billy, please, you were with these guys. You're one of these renegades, man. Indie creator, doing your own thing. Can you please introduce our two guests?
I'd like to introduce. Well, like I said, I'd love to introduce two rock stars. And both with a little bit of outlaw in them too. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, or don't, well, let's do this alphabetically, shall we? Everyone, say hello. Please say hello to the one, the only, the master, Mr. Brian Haberlin.
Hey,
what's up, buddy?
Hey, bud.
And someone that we've never had on the show before either, but he is one of the greats. His work, all the X-Men work he's done, and again, just with Wet Works, the whole thing, and just I don't know how do we,
one of the founding fathers of a revolution. Man. He made it okay to do your own thing and play by your own rules.
Yeah. And I have to admit that if it were not for Image Comics, I know I would not be here.
So without further ado,
I really think that Image Comics. No, I think with the success what they did, that inspired me to make my own comics.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Whilce Portacio.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, welcome. Billy, and hey, Billy, you're the poster boy for us, man. If it wasn't
The
for
battle of
fans,
independence,
you know,
for independence,
we would not have been anything. And for the fans to become, you know, us, that's the dream. That's what America is about, right? It's about dreams and dreams coming true. And you know, you did it like we did.
And we were fans, you know. I mean, maybe that's not a good thing, right? Because all of us got into comics because we're fans. But you know, maybe we'd make better business decisions or something if we weren't. But just what a dream, you know, what a joy. I mean, first of all, maybe you guys tell a little bit about yourselves. Brian, you want to talk about yourself, how you got into comics, how long you've been doing it, you know, and say hello to the Pop XP and the great Renzini.
I always was, you know, it's like back when I was a kid, if you wanted to do superheroes, fantasy, and sci-fi stuff, it's like you either did, you know, paperback book covers or you did comics, because the movies back then, I mean, there was Star Wars, you know, that was like it, right? It's like, and you had your name in the credits. I wanted to do something that was more interesting, so I worked on penciling, and I finally got a job offer when I was 18 from Shooter and Romita Sr. to come and work in the bullpen.
Wow.
But then you had to move to New York, and I was a West Coast guy, and it's like $35 a page, and they wouldn't guarantee you work, and so I went to film school instead, and started working at Lorimar Television. Worked on dozens of television shows, Warner Brothers Television, but I was always working on, you know, the computer, you know, from the first Amiga days. I started working on developing stuff with that and developing techniques for doing coloring and comic book art with it and all that stuff. And before I was ready, you know, going down to San Diego, because I'm a Southern California guy, go down to San Diego with a portfolio in hand and get rejected just like everybody else. And then one year, my friend Rod Underhill, dearly departed Rod Underhill, said, "Hey, I'm having a booth in the small press area. Why don't you join me?" You know, and I went, okay, you know, and I had a CRT that was meaning monitor that was deeper than it was wide, right? And probably weighed about 80 pounds. Had a big inkjet print of Green Lantern with a 3D modeled power battery behind him and fully colored in pencil and stuff. And the year before, you know, I couldn't get a job for my life. That year, everyone and their mother came by and wanted to work with me. And Mark was like, "Don't talk to anybody else." Mark, don't talk to anybody else. And so I started Top Cow's coloring department back in '93, and eventually ran the creative side of the company, co-created Witchblade, and then went off with and started, because I was like top of the pyramid coloring guys, and I brought all my guys with me and stuff, or some of my guys with me, and added more, and started Haberlin Studios, and we colored for everybody. You know, we did a lot of stuff with Jimmy and Joe and Marvel Knights, the beginning of that. I remember Jimmy was like, "Okay, we want you to color the whole line." I was like, "Can't color the whole line." Yeah, so I can do some of it, you know. And then Whilce and I started Avalon. And with Avalon, we released Aria, which was the second highest selling comic book in the United States when it came out. Stone was the highest selling independent book of '98 when it came out. The Wicked, Hellcop, which I have back out again now. And this, you know, then eventually became editor-in-chief for Todd McFarlane. I drew Spawn for a couple of years. I'd be in that room with Todd, and we were trying to staff the Haunt property that Robert and Robert Kirkman and Todd were launching. That was when DC and Marvel had exclusivity wars up the you-know-what.
Yeah.
And I'd be calling people on the phone, "Hey, you want to hear this cool book Todd's going to be doing and Robert's going to be doing it?" It's like, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Okay, when are you available?" 3 years from now. Okay. But he'd be in meetings with Todd and Robert, with people we bring in, right? And Todd would be going, "Yeah, but you don't want to be known for doing Stan and Jack's characters. You want to be known for doing your own characters, you know?" And Robert would chime in with the same thing, and I'd be thinking, I used to do my own characters, you know, and that's when, you know, 10 years or 12 years ago, I guess 10 years ago now, I started Anomaly Productions, and that's all I've been doing for the last 10 years.
It's insane. You know that if it wasn't for the colors of Image, they revolutionized the landscape, and you were definitely one of the founding fathers of that revolution for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the bad part is I killed part of the industry. I killed guidists because I hired painters.
Yeah.
They didn't need guides anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was always such a weird process for me too, because I would get handed this beautiful Joe Chido painted guide and stick it in, and it's like, well, why don't we just scan these? Why am I now trying to duplicate it on the computer? I don't understand. So, and that's where I met Whilce down when I first joined, because he was at Homage. That was Top Cow, Wildstorm,
Yeah,
Whilce,
Homage Studios,
all together in one place, and it was the most magical place you could ever start in comics. It was all open floor plan. You had the best of the best. Everybody was also trying to beat each other, but it was but everyone was also, if you weren't a dick, shared information with you. I could sit behind Scott Williams and watch him ink and ask him what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that in La Jolla?
No, it was in Mira Mesa. It was inland San Diego.
Okay.
La Jolla was later.
Okay. Now, and what about you, Whilce? Genius.
Well, I was born a genius. I mean, from a genius family.
There you go. And you're a handsome man, and I'll drink to that.
Well, we like to stay young in comics. I'm actually a Navy brat.
Good.
And I think that was one of the starts of my growth as a creative person, is that, here I was, like, the best time I had was like the 4.5 years we were on Midway Island, an island, 1 mile by 2 miles.
You were there for 4 years?
Yeah, in the early 70s. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so, I mean, but get this, Bill, I mean, you probably understand this, is like, you had a lot of free time, right? Because you're a kid, right? And there were only like 100 families or so. So you knew every kid. Yeah. So there was no conflict, no worries. Everybody got along because, hey, if you didn't like somebody, 4 years later, they're gone, right?
Yeah.
And it was an island 1 mile by 2 miles, and only 1/8 of it was cemented over, with the exchange and the commissary and everybody's houses. So everything else was restricted area, and this was a site of a major battle.
Yeah.
So there were pillboxes all over the place. There were artillery, for what you call them, these big cement dugouts where they put the big gun.
Yeah, guns. Bunkers and all. Yeah.
Yeah, bunkers.
Emplacements, bunkers. Yeah.
Yeah, and they still had some of the stockpile of the old warehouse in the old warehouses and stuff. And you couldn't join my club until you found your own bayonet shovel.
Oh, really?
Just from running around digging up everywhere,
Yeah.
And so, we do all the cool stuff of, going down to the thrift shop and buying a model of a Japanese battleship or something for $1, build it up, and then go into the woods with my friends. And everybody had their own walkie-talkie that we all bought from the Sears catalog, right?
Yeah.
And we'd have matches, and you'd light up your models, and then you'd go chew, chew, chew with some cement bombs, and then as the models would melt, they'd fire down little fireballs, pew, chew, chew. But then all this black smoke goes up. So after a while, which is why we had our walkie-talkies, you heard. It was a Coast Guard.
Oh.
What the hell is this
Yeah.
stuff? And then we all had our battle plans on. Okay, you go this way and I'll go that way. And then we'll meet an hour later at, And so I grew up like, Mayberry, RFD. I grew up like in combat. I mean, I grew up in the best part of the imagination part because we were free to. Yeah. And it was the Pacific. So you get up at school, you go to school at 8 o'clock, you get back home 2:30, and the sun didn't go down till like 9:30, 10. So you had like 6 hours to just bullshit around.
Yeah. And was there a jungle there or anything like that? Any foliage?
There were forests all over everywhere, and sand mountains. They didn't tell us that on the other side of the island, where nobody really went, was the big, huge piers where they would take submarines. It was deep enough for them to take submarines. And so we were on our every now and then we would have this trek, and I was the first aid guy, so I'd make a box of band-aids and stuff. And we would like go to the beach, which was like barely a mile behind my house. And then we would walk the beach around the whole island. And one day we got real lucky. We went around and we got around to the pier side, and there was a big, huge nuclear sub. And it was President Ford visiting the islands.
Wow.
So we got to, I mean, you know, and then I guess, you know, all the other military stuff over there. And again, we were just small little, you know, kids. We could get into anything and everything. And, you know, so that just really blew up my imagination about how, you know, stories that I wanted to do. And so because my dad worked at the Officers Club, he ran the Officers Club, I had access to piles of typewriter paper, you know, copy paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just draw and draw and draw. And I remember back then I used to draw army battles in the style of like Gru, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That then fueled me for then our next port, my dad's last port, which was Hawaii, which was Pearl. And that's where I met Scott. Scott was, I believe, a junior, and I was a freshman in high school.
So you went to the same school as Scott Williams?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was an Air Force brat, and I was a Navy brat. Now, picture this, okay? I'm this punk little dark, skinny Filipino kid with messed up hair that looked like a bird's nest, and then this tall, lanky, cool, long hair, man. I mean, my hair is about as long as his was back then. He looked like Andrew Agassi, and he was one of the major tennis club guys. But we landed in the same art class, and he said, "Can you draw?" And I go, "Yeah." And I showed his stuff, and he goes, "Wow, you draw comics?" "Yeah, I've been looking at Jack Kirby and some Neil Adams." And then he goes, "Hey, I got a Neil Adams." "What do you mean you got a Neil Adams? How can you, a mini Neil Adams?" "What?" "No, I didn't know there was like art pages." Of course,
He
there
was
are
collecting all the way back then.
all the way back then.
Wow.
He had all the stuff, man. He
So
showed me.
he bought a Neil Adams original page?
His collection is got to be one of the biggest ones out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had a lot of stuff back then. I got exposed. I was lucky that my neighbor, my next door neighbor in Midway Island, her husband threw away his comic collection and basically gave it to me.
Oh.
And it was Neil Adams, Gene Colan, Jack Kirby, Steranko. It was all of the good people and the good stuff. And then when I go meet Scott then introduces me to, you know, like Mobius, to Barry Windsor, you know.
Jesus.
And again,
Wow.
he had some of the actual artwork. So I got to see that transition. Because right, Billy, when you're young and you're just discovering this, you think everything's done up this small.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you go, wow, how can they draw that detail that well? Well, no, it's 11 by 17. So through Scott, I got to see all that. And Scott and I, for the last year that he was there, I was his inker and he was my penciler. And but he was really heavy into Disney animation. So when he went off to college at the University of Hawaii Fine Art, he's one of the only fine arts of us in the industry.
Oh.
And he wanted to get either into animation or into comics. And a couple of years later, I transferred to San Diego, and my cousin forces me to go to San Diego Con. I had no idea what that was. And this was at the Civic Center. So this wasn't this major thing yet back then. And there was Scott with the Hawaii group.
And you're like, yo.
Yeah. You know, I made him move in with me so that we could, you know, I mean, we were your typical art nerds back then.
Yeah.
You know, talking about philosophy, talking about what would be this or what would be that, because we were heavy into sci-fi and stuff. And
were you guys more into fine art or illustration or both?
No. We were always into illustration.
Yeah.
We had one of the best art teachers in the world, Thomas Inhofe in Hawaii. He heard us talking about Corbin, you know. So this was the days of what was the magazine? Heavy Metal.
Theory?
Oh, Heavy Metal.
No,
Heavy Metal magazine.
Yeah, so it was all this. Most of it was European stuff, and so we then got to see Corbin's. I forget one of his first really big airbrushed books, and we were just gaga over it. And our teacher heard because we walked in the next day, and Mr. Inhofe is like airbrushing something. And then we come up to him, and we go, dude. And then he turns around, turns it off, and he gives it to Scott and walks away and just lets us play. That's how we got into anything and everything and stuff. And so to continue the story, then, after San Diego, I got in first. And Scott was still living near me. He was living in Pacific Beach, and I was still at Mira Mesa. And I said, hey, you're not in yet, but, you want to get to know the people and if there's a loophole or if there's an opening somewhere, why don't you be my quote unquote assistant? So people start getting to know you. And then he started.
You say you're in, are you in at Marvel, at DC, Pacific?
I was at Marvel. Carl Potts,
okay.
Yeah, Carl Potts discovered me. Eyeing for me. He actually discovered Jim, I think it was 2 months earlier or 2 months later. And so he was eyeing us both for the Punisher books already, but we didn't know how to tell a story. So I've been very lucky in my life. And so the lucky part there was both Jim and I didn't know how to tell a story. And so Carl, instead of saying, hey, come back to us next year with some samples, 2 weeks later, he sent us FedEx Xerox copies of the 5 C's of cinematography. And we both learned. We both wanted to get in, so we both went on speed burn and learned. And I got in as an inker first because somebody had an opening. And Carl goes, hey, while you're still learning storytelling, make some money here. And so I get in. I get bored silly because I only want to be a penciler. And Scott wants to be a penciler, but I hadn't realized at that point, he had already decided that he was too slow. He was too meticulous as a penciler. And so we started getting jobs, and Scott started going, hey, can I do those trees? Can I do those mountains? Can I do those backgrounds? And pretty soon, I'm not bashful. I'll let all the editors know. And pretty soon, everybody knew that they had, 2 inkers with them, me and Scott, and then I could go really easily into penciling. And then that's what happened. So when I got my first pencil job, of course, Scott would be called in. He was a new guy. And then when Jim came in, Scott, okay. And then, that's kind of funny too. Carl Potts is part Japanese. Okay. So he has Asian, he's a ninja. He called me up in the early days and he goes, hey, you should meet Jim Lee. He's an Asian guy.
No, like you're in the Asian club, dude.
But see, he was in San Francisco. So then me and Scott, after we saw his samples and he saw ours, me and Scott, coerced him to come down to San Diego. And that's where we formed Homage Studio, just in a little apartment.
Now, how did you get Carl Potts' attention?
San Diego.
So you were at San Diego Comic-Con and you went with a portfolio.
Again, I was really lucky. That first year that I went, and again, I didn't know about it. My cousin, my older brother cousin knew about it, and he dragged me over there, dragged me with my portfolio. That was the year Marvel sent every single editor over, actually looking for people.
What year is that? Is that 91, 90? What years?
80? No, that was like 84, 85.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's way back there. I don't know if you've ever been to the Civic Center, San Diego Con. It's inside of San Diego, far away from Broadway. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, so we got there, and then again, Jim was there, and then so when Jim started penciling, they asked me to ink, and so I inked it, and then me and Scott taught Jim how to ink, and then that's how that's how we quickly progressed up to be able to do that issue of X-Men that all of us jammed on.
Is that the one that you guys did in like a night? I heard a story you guys put together and like in like night, like you had a day or something to do a whole issue, and like I don't know if you were penciling or Jim was penciling, then you were inking or what. But didn't you guys put together a whole issue? The homage
Well,
guy?
one of the books was one of the issues fell behind, and so if I remember right, there was something like 14 days. So Bob calls us up and says,
Oh.
"Hey, you guys know who could put together an issue in 14 days?" And then I believe it was Jim who got the call, and so Jim turned around. We could hear him on the speakers, and we all go, "Yeah!" And then Jim then go, because again, you actually alluded to a little earlier, almost all of us artists, all of us pencilers we're like warriors with each other, right? We get challenged by each other, which then pumps up our skills.
Yeah.
It keeps us on top of each other. And so Jim then said, we could do it in 9 days.
That's what it was. I'm sorry. 9. Okay.
And then so we did that. And so we got off the phone and we saw, okay, this is Bob Harris. This is our big debut into not only the X Office, but this is a favor we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
And so we go, okay, so how can we do it? I mean, any group can get together and do something in 9 days, but is it going to look like crap, right?
Right.
And so we go, how are we going to do this so that it'll look good, And even though Jim and I were very competitive, we were very honest with each other. And Jim went to an Ivy League school, so he knew how to organize stuff. So we put all our cards on the table and we go, okay, well, Jim lays out the quickest of all of us. So he can lay the stuff out. And I render like hell. Okay. It's kind of like, some other artists now that, it takes a long time to lay out, to build anatomy, to build a pose. But I had an anatomy so versed in me, I could do the anatomy part, but figuring out the pose, and this was in the beginning. So, there wasn't much, Googling and stuff. So you could, unless you had $1 million comic collection, then you could peruse through all the the different kinds of poses from different kinds of artists and stuff. And so Jim was that. So Jim goes, okay, I'll lay out and then I'll render all the faces and the figures, finish them out and render them. And then Scott will ink all of the figures and faces. And then here's the innovation. Jim was one of the first ones to play around with markers. So if you look back at that, all those backgrounds are just marker backgrounds.
Wow.
And Jim
He told me that when he inks, that he uses markers. He told me that back.
Yeah. No, everything you've ever seen of his, of him inking is him. He doesn't have the patience for the crow quill and stuff. So that's how you tell whether it's Scott or Jim. You'll see an obvious marker line somewhere, and you have.
Yeah, but now that's what Scott uses markers left, right, and center.
Yeah, but he uses it and you don't notice it.
Oh yeah, he used to poo-poo it. I remember when I was introducing him.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, "No, this isn't a real tool. It's got to be a sable brush and a 102 and
That's hilarious. And then, hey guys, really quick, we did get 2 super chats in. So one's for you, Billy, Sons of Liberty Radio, $2 super chat. Got my she today. Tweeted a quick video unboxing. Cool. Very cool.
Well, I hope you liked it, buddy. Thank you.
And the next one we got a $10 super chat from the Great Renzine. Thank you, sir. Brian, looking forward to the Drew Posada covers on Hellcop. He spoke great things about you always. Whilce, any chance in integrating Wetworks to DC like Jim is doing with Grifter?
Well, Brian Hellcop, I had those great covers. They were actually covers that were on our Wicked book once upon a time. I brought Drew into the industry at Top Cow way back in the day, back in 90, 93, 94. And he's just an amazing pinup artist. I think for his generation, he was the guy, right up with Olivia and other people and stuff. And he passed away way before his time. And I felt, this stuff has to be out there again. So, I throw them on there as like, they're virgins, and then they're also, so you get the full art, but then they're also like, some sort of hell version, like a Play Demon cover, a demon, instead of Gentleman's Quarterly, a Demon's Quarterly, and we have a beautiful, Lilith that Drew did back in the day, and it's all just to keep his memory and his art out there alive.
Well done.
Well done indeed.
Yeah, good guy. It's sad. It's a shame.
And Wetworks, anything can happen, but the short, sweet answer is like all of the property that was within Wildstorm, Wetworks was in the same bundle when the studio was sold.
See, this is what comics needs, though. DC needs this to have Wetworks and pay you a boatload of money for you to do it, and it would be huge, though. The industry.
Oh yeah.
They're I don't know.
I agree. I agree with you, Billy. I actually go all the way back that in the very beginning, because I don't know if you guys remember, right, Brian? It was we announced in late December or early January, and then about a week later there was a stock market thing, and it said that Marvel's stock dropped like 12-14%. Because we all left.
Oh, you mean when Image started?
Yeah.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember Brian, because Brian and I, we can go back to it later maybe, but Brian and I were the ones really responsible for. Well, it was John Nee, the house manager of Wildstorm, because he had a Mac store. So he was the one who discovered for all of us Photoshop, and he threw it at Brian and I to say, "Can we make this work in comics?" So we were trying to get Marvel and DC and everybody, because we wanted to share. I mean, the bigger the industry, the more money you make, right?
Absolutely.
So we were trying to convince everybody, and they didn't want to. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. So my point is that with them falling behind because their big guns had left and were doing $1 million comics and bringing that up. Remember, the Uncanny X-Men when I was doing it was $400,000 a month.
Holy
to bring
crap.
up everything to 1 million and stuff was if Marvel, I even go as far as saying that if the Marvel execs were real business people, they would have looked at the wall and said, we got to join them. They're making big things happen.
Yeah.
So let's let them make big things happen for us. And since they're corporate, keep us happy.
Well, wasn't one of the things, I mean, the only people that had another kind of decent coloring department as a company was Malibu.
Yeah.
I think that's how they sold themselves to Marvel. They put the Marvel bottom as for a coloring studio than the properties, right? Because I don't think has there ever been a single Malibu property that's been done by Marvel since then?
I don't think so.
No. And it
I
sucks
think that's
too.
what Dave said, right?
They shelved all the Ultraverse stuff. Shelved all of it. It was all
I think that is why they bought them for for like the technology and the color that they did.
And it was it was like a paper tiger.
Yeah.
It was not.
And then they
that
just
that was their move from, because I mean, I was talking to my assistant the other day and we were talking about, again, Whilce, you guys were the guys responsible for Marvel doesn't promote their artists anymore.
No.
Yeah.
They don't.
They used to promote you guys, and then they like, okay, that bit us in the ass. We're not going to do that again. But I think that's so short-sighted, because I think it's like having a Tom Cruise movie, and you're not going to say Tom Cruise is in the movie, or some big star, whoever it is, right? It's like that's part of the whole thing. It's so short-sighted, and frankly, they could just have contracts that make it so they're not going to compete for a certain amount of time after you promote the hell out of them, and it's just going to help you. I don't understand,
Yeah, but they don't want to. They also don't want to. They don't want to pay the artists, so that's why they don't have it. That's why everyone's trying to do crowdfunding now.
Yeah,
all the big names are, And
it's the way to go.
Billy, and you're right, because that was just one marker that Uncanny, in the late 80s was doing 400,000 copies a month, where today you guys are probably know better than I, but from the last time I looked, it was an average of maybe 5 books a month that went past 100. And you're talking mostly the books without 10 million variants and and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't even know if it is that many. I mean, what books are selling over 100 now?
Yeah,
Ryan, I mean, your fingers on the pulse of all this.
There's probably just a few, there usually are a few.
I think the ones that seem to get more of a tabloid following of some kind, usually like an event, Like I know with with what they did with Superman recently, I know that brought in some a jump in sales, but again, it didn't last long.
Well, then it went
the
from number
sales.
16 to number 7. It's number 7.
Well, because I think what happens though is
numbers.
you get like the collector rush. I think they were trying to kind of like embody like this massive change in the superhero Superman market, and I think you do get that surge of collectors that jump in and just want to get a copy of milestone, what they consider milestone comic of some sort. But again, like you were saying, I mean, it was awesome. Like, I mean, Whilce and Brian, all you guys, I mean, and Billy, I mean, like you guys were, for me, mainly, I was born in 84. I got into comics at about 1990 or 1989. I was young, but I mean, like you guys were like the rock stars, right? Like you came in and you saw the names, you knew who was working on stuff. Even then, we didn't have internet, right? We didn't have those things. Nowadays, like I'm just going to use Rob Liefeld for just an example. I was like, I didn't even know he was still doing some stuff for Marvel and whatnot. And if I wasn't following him on social media, I wouldn't know he was actually still doing stuff.
If he didn't promote it himself,
promote it himself, I would have no clue that he was doing a Deadpool thing or doing a G.I. Joe thing or whatnot.
I agree with you.
It's just like your guys' names hold so much value still. And,
there's a big difference though. When all 7 of us were coming up, okay, even to when we were all trying to get into the industry, okay, X-Men was selling 400, but as a society nobody knew about it, but all the kids knew about it. Why? Because their mom could be dragging them to the airport down a main street, or dragging them to the grocery store, and then on the corner there's a newsstand and there are comics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you go into a 7-Eleven, or if you're a military brat like me, you go to the exchange and there's a roller rack.
Yep.
Now, where the hell does a new 14-year-old get exposed?
Yeah.
He
Very
doesn't.
true. Very true.
There is the internet, but he's got to type that in, and so we got exposed to that and said, oh wow, maybe there's a job there, man. We could apply there. And we did apply. And then when we got there, here's the other big difference. And part of this is what Brian was saying about our effect on Marvel and DC after we left, was that back then when Bob Harris said, Whilce, you want to do Uncanny? I of course jump at the chance, but I'm going, yeah. And I'm going, yeah, because as long as I don't totally screw up like 2 deadlines in a row, I could probably stay on that book forever.
Yeah.
Now, right, Billy? If I give you an offer, what you gotta be savvy enough to ask how many issues, and it's usually like 3, 2, or 4, or 6 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So think about that. The longevity. I mean, the shortness of that. How do you get exposed?
Yeah.
And you're right. You get exposed by your name. So everybody goes, "Oh, I like this guy. This guy's name is Whilce. I don't know. Whilce. And then after like 6 more months, they go, "Oh, it's this Whilce guy. I forget his last name." And then a year and a half later, then it's Whilce Portacio, right? At least they know my name. But it's easier for them to remember. Hey, he did those cool Storm covers. Or he did that great Archangel. So I become the Archangel guy, the Storm guy, and so my audience grows beyond just my name.
Well, you also have an environment though that was basically cultivated by you guys, because now with the internet and everything, it's information overload. Like anybody who wants to find anything out can go find it. You're looking at when you guys were coming out. You guys spoke with your books. You guys spoke with your artwork. There's set up rumors and stories that we want to know what's going on with these mysterious artists we don't know. And each week we had to pace and wait for the next Wizard magazine or Heroes Illustrated
we had
to let us know what was going on.
We had our fan magazines.
And see, that was our internet.
That was our
absolutely.
internet, exactly. That's how we kept up with everything.
I remember it like when I was collecting Infinity Gauntlet when it was coming out, And Ron Lim, his artwork was incredible. And we were trying to figure out how Thanos had this amazing Infinity Gauntlet. It's like, how's it going to end? Nobody knows. And I couldn't wait to go to the comic book store to go get the last issue, number 6, to find out what was going on. And, it took me 2 weeks before my parents would take me to the comic book shop to go pick up the new book out of my box. You can't wait 2 weeks now because the spoilers would be all over the internet. Yeah. But I mean, my surprise when I read the book and found out that Adam Warlock got the Infinity Gauntlet, then I was like, oh my God, and then, anyway, just all those stories, like now you can read, we already have spoilers from 3 stories in advance. And I don't know, man, it's just, you guys were at top of your game, at the top of the feeding frenzy for information and books, and you guys capitalized in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Well, everything that I'm talking about all boils down to one thing: that the industry was set up to let us go. I mean, by the time Jim and I got through in the X office, Bob was allowing us to write whatever we wanted to do every other issue. We would do what he wanted, and then the next issue we could do whatever we want. Imagine that freedom. Yeah. There's no way you can get that freedom today because it's a different system. The system doesn't allow a Frank Miller to go, what if Batman was a psychotic Sean Connery and we rename him Dark Knight? Imagine what the lawyers would have said if they,
Yeah.
Back then they were corporate lawyers, but they weren't billion-dollar corporations, which they are today. They would have freaked out. No, the brand is Batman. The brand is Batman. So the industry was built to let us loose. And you look at everything anybody ever really likes in comics, it's seen as a classic now, was by somebody who goes, oh, what about, and what abouting was, we were kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's this corporate structure. And, I love a lot of the writers, but I've never really agreed with this writers thing that everybody has. Because I, for one, as a writer who's not part of that 5 gang, I don't want to get more, marching orders from them to take my characters a certain way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to come up with the idea.
But these people aren't accomplished writers for the most part. They're like Tumblr writers and stuff like that.
But see, that's my point though too, Billy, is Bob let me and Jim grow and bang our heads on the wall. Now, because the editors don't have that power to let you go and say, hey, okay, what? All right, guys, I got these 2. Give me some time. They don't have that power. So everything is just, oh, well, these guys are big, so let them write it, but it's not their book.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not even
like
fans.
The characters. They want to change those characters.
Yeah, they're not even fans of the characters.
They're not fans.
But see, that's my point, that if they let the monsters loose, us teenage monsters loose, we would come up with these crazy teenage monster stuff that everybody else likes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you got. I mean, Todd tells me a story about, his favorite editor he ever worked with was Jim Salcrope on the old Spider-Man stuff, because basically Todd would do the issue, and at the end of the issue, Jim and Todd would go over it, and Jim would go, well, let's not do so much of this stuff anymore and do more of this stuff. But that was the editorial guidance. It was freedom, it was just, that worked great. I didn't think that worked as well, nothing getting in the way, because that's also one of the things is people forget, it's like doing a monthly comic is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And more things that get in the way of that, it's just like I used to rep some different artists, and you'd have the process of Marvel. All of a sudden, there'd be somebody doing layouts and then redoing layouts again. And it's like, dude, he's got to get this book done in 3 weeks. Quit, let him go. It's like, but that's part of the problem. I'm sure everyone here will agree. It's like we don't have any artist editors anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge problem for the industry.
Yeah. There just seems to be a toxic environment at the big 2 now. That's how I feel. Even when I was doing stuff for them, and there's a lot of cattiness, I think, in a lot of the editorial. Like when I got hired to do Heroes for Hire for Marvel, my only Marvel gig, And this after being nominated for 3 Eisner Awards, they made me draw breakdowns for every page. They had to see my breakdowns, like almost like an insult, a dig to you, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, wait a minute, we've sold 3 million comics. I've been nominated for 3 Eisner Awards, and I have to do breakdowns and submit breakdowns for every, and of course every one of them was approved. That was, okay, great. But there was like some people there that just like, it was like a dig to me almost. Like, I don't know if they wanted to keep you down or what to let you make sure that you're working for Marvel sort of thing. But it seemed very toxic.
I have a slightly different outlook because again, I'm not repeating it just for my glorification, but in the late 90s and late 80s, when I was doing Uncanny, we were regularly selling 400,000. Now, if you get into the numbers, which all of us image guys had to do because you got to understand the industry that you're trying to head honcho. And we found out that you don't start, according to the Marvel numbers, you don't really start making royalties until your book gets to, I think, 70,000. So that's just the beginning of royalties, right? And most books are down in the 30 range. Okay. I think number 20 goes down to 40,000. Okay. So most of it doesn't get into that range. But because back in the day when nobody knew about comics except us geeks, and Uncanny was 400, my book is literally paying for other books, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So here's another thing. Almost all of us, I think all of us in the 7, when we first applied for Marvel, the first thing that we got paid to draw was a plot, a 22-page plot called Double Vision, and a Vision story. But it was a 22-page plot. We were asked to draw in 8 pages. Okay, so that was a real storytelling, right? But again, it's a test. Just to see if we knew how to storytell and we could do it on time, right? But they paid us. And then I remember, I forget what it was. I can't even remember what editor, but I even got paid to do what's called in the can issue at the time, where like Kurt Claremont or somebody, they approved the plot, but it was out of continuity. So it was one of those plots that you could slide in later on if schedules got messed up. And so they pay me to draw that issue and put it in their drawer. So that again, something messes up, boom, nobody notices we mess up. They'll drop this out of continuity story. Today, when the books are averaging in the 30s to the 70s, there's no money going around.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with a lot of what a lot of people say on the internet, but the business side of me says, look at the reality. If there's no money, there's no money.
Right.
Avengers movie will make billions, but the Avengers comic book that Wednesday will make crap.
Yeah.
Literally.
But it might also help that the Avengers in the movie are the same Avengers in the comic. That would also help.
They timed that wrong.
When people come in and buy, when people come in and want to buy an Avengers comic, or they, Iron Man's huge and they want to get, and Iron Man is the girl, the 15-year-old girl. They're like, what the hell is this? I want Tony Stark. I love Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
He's not in the book,
Well, we're right, Brian. We're legally bound. We can't draw Robert Downey.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Can't do the likeness.
Crazy. At least have Tony Stark.
Tony Stark. Just have Tony Stark in there.
Yeah.
It's John Malin.
John?
Hey, we got a super chat from John Malin. Thank you, man. Whilce, love your X-Men wet works. Iron Man work as a young artist. Huge inspiration. If you had one dream project left to do, mainstream or indie, what would it be?
It would either go back and redress the wrongs done to Bishop or Silver Surfer. I've always wanted to do Silver Surfer. In fact, I actually even talked to Stan Lee about doing it because it's one of his favorite too. Yeah. I'm a sci-fi guy, and
let
Surfer just.
I bet they would let you on Silver Surfer immediately.
Marvel's funny. I mean, back in the day, I told my that's 2. So my third favorite and because I'm a military brat and I'm a heavy sci-fi guy. Deathlock. Marvel knew I wanted to do
Nice.
Deathlock, and I even knew the editors, but they still didn't give me Deathlock.
Never gave them to you.
And wouldn't that be an easy transition, right? Punisher, Archangel over into, Deathlock, and that was high science fiction back then.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, what about you? Same question. If you could get your hands on your dream project.
Well, again,
Unless you've already done it.
Doing my own stuff is always my top priority. But for fun, the things that got me into comics in the first place, I was very lucky when I was in my teens. I had friends that were into comics before I was, and they got to cherry pick all the best of the very best, stuff for me. And the stuff that really first kind of hooked me was the Jim Starlin cosmic stuff.
Yeah.
And they could pull me with a big. The two things that could pull me would be my own kind of take on FF, and then big ass cosmic stuff. Adam Warlock, Silver Surfer, just take the Guardians of the Galaxy to the max, but all the bigger, just because I used to love that Jim Starlin, Adam Warlock stuff with Pip and Gamora and all these hyper-powered Star Fox and all of these, that guy is Thanos' brother? Oh man, it's like, what's that like? What's dinner's like at home with that? But yeah, so big cosmic stuff would be fun.
I don't know. We heard Silver Surfer twice. I don't know if we need to start the petition or what here, but I think that would go like gangbusters right there with everyone. But another reason why we have you guys on is that because you are, Billy's been, doing the independent game, the crowdfunding. You guys are now, doing some crowdfunding as well. I mean, is this the type of future you think? Are you going to start looking at continuing in the crowdfunding arena with new properties, as well as maybe even bringing, like the omnibus we're about to show?
I think I like the hybrid approach, because I think to me it's about having the crowdfunding group that can get the really special kind of thing. But as Billy and I have put together books on our own dime before, being able to get something funded. Like I thought it was very interesting what Boom did with Berserk. Because they flipped it, because they had, okay, we're going to crowdfund the trade. Everyone knows when they're going to get the trade, but they're not going to get the trade before it's going to the regular retailers. And we're going to do the issues. So you get things paid for it. So economically speaking, it makes such wonderful sense. But it's also, though, I think it's great for like really wonderful prestige stuff that, you'd be a hard time selling, because again, it's going direct to the consumer.
Yeah.
Which, and I love my retailer base. I love my retailer, but there's some things that I know, I'm going to do this really cool thing with gold filigree, and it's going to have a 5-page pullout, and it's going to have, leather, and it's going to be in a case, and I'm going to sell 100 into the mass market.
Yeah. They take 60% of the cover price.
But I can sell, hundreds or maybe hopefully more, and make it all work and give somebody something. One I'm proud of doing on the quality, because I always love the quality stuff. I love, embossed. I get so into printing stuff. I buy stuff, if I go in the store that I think is really produced really, really well, and put it on my shelf and go, I'm going to use that for reference so I can send it to a printer and go, I want something like this, and stuff like that. But no, I think it's wonderful. I mean, the reason why we're doing now, because we finished our Kickstarter for Stone Omnibus, which was the big collection. Then we moved it over to Indiegogo. They actually reached out to us, and because we kept getting people saying, "Oh, we missed it." Oh, and it just, okay, why not? Let's move it over and have people have more chance to get it.
And Indiegogo is awesome because also when we could show the campaign, they could see what they're getting.
Yeah,
exactly.
The perks you get, there's an image of your perk next to it. Kickstarter doesn't do that.
Yeah.
See, right there. So if that was Kickstarter, you wouldn't have the actual image there.
Yeah, Indiegogo is a great platform. They both have their, like I said, I think they probably had a gentleman's agreement one day saying, we're going to have this feature and you can have this feature and everything. But Indiegogo is a cool platform. I think you guys will enjoy it. But I have to say, Billy and I started crowdfunding comics back in 2019. And, that's what we started the channel on. And then we expanded to Pop XP and made crowdfunding comics, the headlining show of the channel, so we could branch off to some of our other friends and other entertainment. Well, we went and we kind of actually ended up rebranding the logo and everything. And it says, the new golden age of creators, because, we looked at and we always honor everything you guys have done. Truly. I mean, to this day, for most creators, even the kids I talk to, at the Kubert school that are attending, I mean, it's always, everything that Whilce has done, Todd, Rob, Brian, what you've done, and Mark, all these guys, like, you guys are still about like the number one inspiration for creators. And I feel like I'm starting to see that can't be recreated in today's environment, but that's not going to happen. But a huge jump in evolution in crowdfunding and independent self-publishing, I think, is happening. And we're seeing a lot of pros coming in. We're seeing a lot of new, up and coming creators just doing their own thing. But what's great is now we've had, we would go to conventions and travel to meet the creators, right? The guys and girls that are just feeding our imaginations with so much. But now with technology, they come on shows like this that we do multiple times a week, and they can have conversations with the creators. They can see what they're doing. Now they're involved in the process. They're your business partners while backing. They're your friends while streaming. They're inspiration sometimes, because the fans out there sometimes throw some great ideas.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, it's such an immersive world now. And with crowdfunding, I really do think that is going to be the next big thing we'll be looking at. Like, wow, check out that big boom that happened, which I think, the big bang is truly building up, because it's complete freedom, and I think you get to do what you want the way you want. And like you said, you want to deliver it to a direct market, right? Because you want to do the special things they like. And the more you give them what they want, the more they'll buy it. And it's just straight from creator to fan, no middleman. Yeah. And then you can distribute. Then you can make different copies and distribute it.
Yep. And you own it all. And they make you able to afford to do more books, because I think my first The Return of the Warrior campaign, the Indiegogo and the Kickstarter, we made more money on that campaign than all the work I made for Marvel and DC combined.
Yeah.
And I own it all. And it's ours.
Yeah,
and you're doing what you love. You're doing your creation, and
I think too, because the timing so changed. Because technology now, I can do these really cool myself sculpted, 3D printed, models that'll go as incentives for that. That's a tick filing. This is stone.
Are you digitally sculpting those?
Yeah, so they're digitally sculpted. They're on my printed out on my 3D printers, and they're incentives or add-ons for the campaigns.
Nice.
Yeah. Technology has
do that back in the day, right?
Yeah. Technology has made things very simple. $20 a month, you've got the entire Adobe suite, right? You can make a full comic book. You've got large format printers that you can get for $200 or $300 and really start getting your stuff put together. It's so easy. You just got to break the fear part. I think that's the hardest part, is everyone the fear of failure.
Oh yeah,
for many creators out there.
Did you guys feel that way at all when you started doing the Kickstarters and stuff like that? Right? You're nervous. Is this going to do well? Or
I had lots of friends that had done it before, and got their 2 cents and stuff, So I kind of got a lay in the land. I definitely did a lot of research before we started doing it, So I think
let me ask you guys though, because to go back to the image model, which is the model, we just talked about how the comics come out every 30 days. So there's silence every 30 days, right?
Yeah.
So that's why did you guys know that we actually had a deal with Wizard? Wizard would call us for content every week, and we would think of content to give to them. So it wasn't about us selling content to them. Mm-hmm. They knew they needed content, and we knew we could build up content to, But anyways, Wizard Magazine was our voice in between those 30 days. So I agree with everything that you guys said, that it's all set. The playground is there, but there's one thing missing, and that's Wizard Magazine. You guys are doing a great job. There are some other people doing a great job, but if you just Google Whilce Brian Stone Kickstarter, Billy Kickstarter. How can it get to one portal? Because I think that's if there was one portal that everything went through. And so anybody, even just an 11-year-old kid who just came out of a movie and goes, are there really comics still? And he Googles and it goes to this portal that directs him to you guys and to other people. What is stopping that from happening? Because I think that is the major key that's just not there yet.
For some reason, it's just not. No one. So yeah, we are the Wizard magazines for the industry. Ourselves and other channels like this, where we interact by giving you the information. It's typically a live stream that will do it. Plus, we do recorded content with reviews of the crowdfunded books and also some mainstream stuff. But people are making attempts at funneling it, but I just don't. No one's truly been really successful in it yet, well, and I don't know if that's. What do you think, Brian? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think that the genie was let out of the bottle a long time ago. Like I think that magic is gone, and there's no way to put it back in. And the internet is definitely a double-edged sword. Like great, it's everybody that gets all this information, but the thing is that because of so much information, disinformation, personal opinions, facts, like it's all diluted down to basically, sometimes a harsh opinion, because there's more negativity than there is positivity, because people are more likely to get on and talk about something negative than they are to talk about something positive. True. And I believe that, when you look at the grand scheme of things, like there's less people doing it amazing than there are people that are doing it bad to subpar. So the average is just not, the average isn't where it needs to be. Like and I don't know how to get that average up because there's so many people that want to do this that are not equipped to.
Yeah. Well, plus the negative news trumps the positive news.
Yeah,
drastically. Our channel compared to a channel that's just media gossip has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and channels that are trying to give the good news and just really what you should be following doing, get thousands of subscribers. It's just kind of the environment we live in. Everyone loves negativity. Yeah. They like to fight. They like to be a part of a cause.
Yeah. So Whilce, who is the one pro that you just want to punch in the face every time you see him?
I just heard his voice. Ask me.
Oh!
No, Billy. We always bump into each other at all conventions and stuff. Actually, I missed that now, huh?
Thank you, John.
Yeah. John Malin just backed Stone Deluxe.
Oh, thank you, man.
Whilce Remark, looking forward to it. Yeah, and the campaign's great. I mean, I love this, man. I love seeing these omnibuses hit these crowdfunding sites and really, remastering it and coming at, I've got, you're talking about, co-creator of Witchblade over here, Brian. I mean, obviously Top Cow's doing their Kickstarters and, I've got, my Witchblade and stuff like that. But it's so great seeing these books come back because you're bringing them to a new audience and you're giving that fresh copies and fresh new books for your original audience. A lot of us don't want to take those books out of the bags, right? I don't want to. The older they get, the less I want to touch my books. So having these omnibuses to me are fantastic. And I know they get autographed, this and that, and they're collectible. But these are like my readers when I want to go back. And what's great too is when I'm drawing and I'm like, how do I do that? Like we were talking, before the internet, and we could look up stuff, but sometimes it's nice to just be like, man, how did Whilce draw this, or how did Billy draw this, or how did Mark draw this, and you just go looking for that inspiration. Like David Finch just posted a video kind of on that of like not copying other artists' work, but kind of taking their work and making it your own to see how they do things and drawing things a certain way, because some artists are just magicians when it comes to certain anatomy, poses, things of that nature. And I think, now having the Stone Omnibus, I posted about today, like this is an omnibus that needs to be in your collection, because we're bringing back just a juggernaut of a book, a series that came in the 90s that I'm telling you guys, if you're creators out there or you're looking for inspiration, you just have to flip through the pages. And then once you read the story, you're going to understand. And then you're going to want to make comics even more, right? But this is, I love this. I can't get enough of these omnibuses starting to roll out.
Well, tell us about it, boys.
Yeah.
Well, what's great about it is, again, we never collected it before, ever. And it's 2 miniseries. But what's really cool about it too is Wilson and his wife came by the studio with stuff. We have so much extra content and full size. I mean, again, I keep trying to figure out what I'm going to do with because Wilson had all the originals for like the first 2 issues. And I was thinking, okay, can we do an oversized, full size, or little masterpiece 11x17 thing of this stuff? But we have hundreds of pages that's never been seen before, and design stuff. Because like we have a full page that's just designed all the different types of typefaces for what Stone, the logo, would look like. You know, all those things that people don't think about. You know, pages of, you know, these are different font treatments that we're going to use for the book and stuff like that. But it's just it's really nice to be able to have, again, just, I mean, it's pages and pages of stuff that we have extra. And, you know, I'm not going to say it. Well, I'm going to say it. You know, we're going to have new Stone stuff coming out later this year.
Excellent.
Nice.
So
Nice.
this will really kind of tee that up too for people.
Yeah, and Stone was, you know, after Bishop and after Wetworks, Stone was something that Brian, if I may, from the very beginning, I was in the Philippines now for 2 years, and I've been living in the U.S. for 56 years. I was you know, I was raised on John Ford. I was raised on all of the movies and all of the science fiction that started way back when up to here. I grew up on Captain Kangaroo, Mayberry RFD, everything. I absorbed all that, and that's what I poured into my comics, because you could genre out our comics as, you know, the U.S. superhero market, the American superhero market, and so I couldn't even speak and understand my language when I was 30, my native language, because I've never really visited there, and there's really not much information out there. There's not much pop culture out there. And so when I went back on a lark, I went back in '95, and I started meeting all these artists, Leniel Yu, you know, Jayana Clanton, Roy Allen, all these artists, and the power of the stories that they wanted to tell me, they started telling me about these creatures, these myths, this horseman creature, this vampire lady creature that splits in half, you know, and then sprouts out, you know, vampire wings, you know. I was going, wow, I never heard of this stuff. And as a creator, I just dove into it. And a lot of those stories aren't complete stories. They're just short myths, you know, that, you know, your babysitter, you know, uses to scare you from going into the backyard at night. And so as a creator, that left me open to, wow, I could make up my own stories, you know, and I started doing that because at that time, 95, I think it was it the first, no, it was the first, yeah, I think it was the first dip, right? Huge dip. And so I did research on the Philippine market, and it was gone, but in its heyday, it was 200,000. And I remember telling Todd, and Todd was going, you know, dude, even if it was 10,000, you know, just add to the numbers that are, you know, our numbers are going down. So I started thinking about, what if I loan charge it and do the story and restart publishing in the Philippines and add that to the market. And throughout my time at Image, Brian and I are like brothers. We just click. We bought the same computers that nobody ever bought. And at the same time, we got into ray tracing when nobody knew what that was. You know, so when we got together, at me on the Wildstorm side of the tech, and Brian on the other side with Mark and Jim didn't know. Me and Brian were just gossiping about everything, and oh, we could do this, we could do that, because we were told corporately to keep it kind of apart. But we knew how far it could go, because none of them were geeks like us. So Brian was always my bouncing board on everything, because we agreed on everything almost. And so after I did the first 10 pages, I showed it to him and I said, "Is this any good?" And then Brian said,
"Yeah, this is," I mean, it was just stunning. It was like, all of a sudden I would just get turn on my 28 baud modem and turn on AOL and wait about a minute or two for the page to show up. And I was just getting these beautiful pages that he was doing, and with these creatures that I've never seen before. And it was like, I'm in, let's do it.
Yeah, and he convinced me to bring it over from, because originally I wanted to use it to start up publishing in the Philippines. But Brian said that this is an international story that he thinks international audiences would take to. And so he convinced me to turn it on a dime and make it a translation now.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brian took over the writing from there, because I will admit that I'm an idea guy. And again, me and Brian get together and we spin ideas like crazy. We not only just spin different ideas, but we pile onto each other's ideas and stuff. So we're a perfect creative team. But long-term structure, long-term coherence, that's Brian. And so Brian put it into a much tighter story, and I was able to just be a hired hand at that point, which I like. I just like drawing crazy stuff, and it went. And to my surprise, and I don't know if you remember this, Brian, that was also the start of Facebook, and I was on Facebook for a while there, so I just posted that like crazy. And begged all my friends to repost it, and they did. And that was our first army, with Avalon Comics.
Solid.
That is very cool. We got another super chat in for you, Whilce, from the Great Renzine. Whilce, any plans on your Image United character Fortress?
I have plans, and I had plans, and he came into the thing with plans. And I can't say anything specific. I have the whole story worked out, even from the beginning, but I want to stay loyal to Image. I mean, Image was Marvel was my training ground, but Image was the first place that said do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Because you know your audience, and you're in touch with your audience. And for me, that is the formula. I hate saying formula because I'm an artist, but that is the formula. It's let the crazies out loose, because the audience is crazies, and they're proudly so. So we know what they, ask me how I think Boba Fett could be fixed, and I'll tell you. I've got ideas.
And leave that man alone.
Other people's ideas, you got to let the monsters loose, and Image did that. And so the story that I've set up with Fortress relies on the ending that we've agreed to with Image United.
Nice.
That's how that was my whole PR plan with Todd when I agreed to do it, that we do a certain thing with Fortress at the end of it, and that then jumps into my first issue. So
crazy.
We'll stay there. But I might be forced to in a couple of years, but that was the plan. And right now I'll stay loyal to my family.
Nice. Let's check out your campaign video, guys.
Yeah.
We always like to check those out.
Hey everybody, Whilce Portacio here.
Brian Haberlin here.
And we are the creators of
Stone.
And if anybody wants the really short thing of what Stone is, imagine if Chris Hemsworth was actually Thor and didn't know it. So we have Jerry Allen, who's an actor playing a mythic hero in the Philippines, and all of a sudden, real, genuine villains come to attack him, and he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And all of a sudden, no, these Agamats aren't real. All of a sudden, they flare to life, and powers come out of them, and he has to figure out what the hell's going on, and that kind of stuff.
Your basic fanboy dream, right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's what comics are supposed to be about. That's fun. That's what comics are about.
Heck yeah.
People moping around or sitting at a damn conference table for 22 pages or a coffee shop or something. This is comics.
Yeah, man, it's true escapism. It's fun, and that's why you guys gotta get out there and you gotta back this omnibus. You're diving into how many pages were we talking on this one? 200?
200 and something, yeah, 200 and change.
Over 200 pages of just full excitement. I love it. I love it. And then we got some Whilce, I think you sparked some Boba Fett talk in the chat.
Oh, Boba Fett smack talking.
John Malin, Disney is actively ruining Boba Fett.
I
think they've written him off.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you think, Blevins?
Yeah.
Man, I think what happens is dude, like being in prison or being captured or whatever, like tortured for a certain amount of time. I mean, I think that takes your drive away from you. And whereas they don't talk about how long he was in the Sarlacc pit, like I feel that took a lot away from him, and he used his last bit of, obviously his last bit of strength to escape. And then, he came to, he was robbed, ripped of his identity, if you will, and never having a family of his own, never really even have a mother because he was a clone. I mean, I think that it's basically, granted, we wanted the ruthless, no disintegrations Boba Fett, but I mean, this is not that story. This is him trying to build on a new second chance at life. And I think that what's going to end up happening is he's going to realize he doesn't fit in that world. And towards the end, he is going to become Boba Fett. I think again, it's just you keep getting the visual of the Bacta tank, him healing. Like, you don't understand that, like, the healing is actually taking him back to his ruthlessness.
Yeah.
And
Brian, everything that you just explained, forget it. That's not what we want. Okay.
Yeah. What about this? Okay. I got a solution where you keep all that, right? And that is what they are, quote unquote, trying to do. But in my as a writer, they're not visually doing, right? That you can't just have somebody say, "Oh, he's traumatized now." Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, give that to me. That I want his experiences with the Sand People and blah, blah, for him to realize family and make a connection, and then they're taken away. Okay, give that to me. Now what I'll give you is, okay, Boba Fett was one of the most feared bounty hunters in the world, in the universe, right? So we got to keep that. So what we do is, here is Boba Fett. He is a guy who always loses his temper. He always goes too far. As a bounty hunter, that's how he got his rep. So now he wants a family. He wants to unify people. So that's his goal now. But every time he gets into it, he gets pushed a little too far and he goes crazy and becomes our old Boba Fett. And now you have Ming-Na there, who also is a assassin. And you could kind of see with her, just her demeanor, that she would kind of like that too. So she's the only one that can actually bring him back down. So she's his babysitter to make sure he doesn't go too far, too long. So you can do everything that they've done, but every now and then, again, harken back to the audience, have him freak out, have him have his Hulk moments and stuff. And so that's how you travel. You travel through the series of him getting less and less Hulkish, where he starts to become the King Conan on the throne. It's Conan's story. That's how you do. You can't just have him turn it off. You have to show the personality that made him the bounty hunter that he was. that he was feared throughout. I mean, imagine doing that to Darth Vader, right? You know, after that first conversation with Luke, where he goes, okay, I'm a nice guy now. I'm gonna get rid of all this black. No, he, 10 minutes later, walking back to his ship, he goes, wait, I'm Darth Vader. And he goes, and Luke has to go back at him and back at him and back at him. And that 10 minutes becomes 20 minutes and 30 minutes and stuff. So it could work. It's just, I don't know why. They never decided to put his character in there, who he is, his personality. They just said, here's the mission statement. Just do it. That's my 2 cents.
So 2 petitions we now have tonight, everyone. Okay, Brian and Whilce need to get on Silver Surfer, and then as Danky Frankie says, Whilce needs to be the story editor of Boba Fett. That sounds better than the boring Fett we're getting, which John Malin in the chat is probably that would be great.
He ain't lying.
Kick Blevins? What?
Kick Blevins?
Kick
What?
Blevins.
He was deep. That was deep. That was a good analysis. He did that. That is true of what the series is right now. And then Whilce followed up with how they could have made it better to give the fans what they want while still telling the story they wanted.
In my story, he still becomes Boba Fett. Like, just not.
Hey,
not
my
as
favorite
quick.
superhero thing
Just not as quick.
out there right now is Peacemaker.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Peacemaker.
That's fun. I like
Yes.
that. Yeah, they're doing some fun stuff with that.
Yeah.
I just
Any show where they talk about, where they explain, because the week before I had to explain to my assistant who Matter Eater Lad was, and all of a sudden in the show they're explaining who Matter Eater Lad was. I'm like, oh my god.
Whilce, I have a question for you if you don't mind. Like, I have kind of like a couple of fanboy questions from back in the day. Number one, Wetworks. Like, so when I first saw Wetworks, it was in Malibu Sun, right? The Malibu Sun deal. It showed like these amazing space marines and their gold armor, massive guns. Like, there was
Brian
nothing at
Haberlin's
that
guns in
time.
that video.
Say what? Yeah,
Brian
got
Haberlin's
some
guns in
tickets.
that video. Nice.
Got some tickets for the gun show. I never, it didn't mention anything about werewolves or vampires or anything at that time. Was that always the story? Because I know you were supposed to launch, and I read in a Wizard magazine or a Heroes Illustrated that there was a fire, and like a lot of the initial Wetworks story got burned up. Is that true? Kind of what I heard, but anyway, or kind of what I read back in the day. You never knew how much of that was real anyway. But
well, you gotta understand one thing about, and I slightly alluded to it, where in how Brian and I work together. You got to remember, in comics, everything has to work in that 4-week period. Okay, you gotta come up with the story. You gotta come up with new characters. You gotta come up with new locations, and then you gotta draw the damn thing, and then you gotta get it produced. So there's not a lot of time. So I argue, and I firmly believe I'm 100% right, that you take the top of us throughout history and ask us like that, how should we fix Boba Fett? And we'll give you short, sweet, concise answers right on the spot right there. Give you even a choice of 3 or 4 of them, because we have to think quickly. So you don't.
Thank you.
As a mark of a real good comic writer, and you ask them, so what's the first scene like for the thing you're going to do? It's not this long drawn out, speech. It's this 1 to 2 minute. Oh, and it's like this and like that. And our keywords just get you excited because we know those keywords are going to get you excited. And tied in with what you already think you know about that. We know how to pile on like that. So a great idea is just a great idea, and almost anybody come up with a great idea. But the real skill is doing it, is how you present it, how you say it, right? You can have a great joke, which is really bawdy, right? And all of us here will love the joke and will get it right away. But if my grandpa asked me or my grandma asked me, I will tell the story, but I'll tell it a little bit different. Mm-hmm. If for some weird reason I need to tell a kid the story, the joke, I'll tell it, but a little different, so that hopefully the kid will get it, but not get all that raunchy stuff, right? So my point there is, It's the execution. It's how you tell the story, you know? And so any one of us, we could do that right away. So like with Wetworks, it was right away. It was, okay, okay, this is how it happened, for your benefit. This is how it happened. It was me and Brandon sitting together on the floor of Homage in Mira Mesa one night with the other guys, and he had brought one of his guns over, and we were oogling over because he had just failed. He tried out for the SEALs, Coronado, and so we were talking.
Brandon
about,
did?
No, Brandon Choi.
Yeah, Brandon Choi. Wow.
Yeah, he got bored.
Did
I
not
find
know
that hard
that.
to believe myself.
He got bored.
Wait, he joined the Navy?
Dude, what?
Brendan Choi joined the Navy?
You tried to join the SEALs? Like, what's up with that? Where did this come
Uh,
from?
So anyways, it went just like this. What would the SEALs want as a Christmas gift? What would be the best thing? And then he said,
Awesome, Jeff.
maneuverable armor. And then I think T2 came out a little while before that. And we go, oh, cool. What about liquid armor? And then we started talking about how we use the Navy SEALs as a jumping point. So these, okay, superheroes with liquid armor. But then we kept coming back, because I'm a Navy brat, we kept coming back to, what about Navy SEALs? Because if there was such thing as liquid armor, then the Navy SEALs could do a lot more.
Yeah.
And so then we went to the realm of, okay, these Navy SEALs with liquid armor going up against superheroes. Okay, so now what do we have to add to that? And then, because we were Image and we were just beginning and thinking about stuff, for some reason, I didn't want to go to Villain of the Week, where I'd have to create a new villain and then introduce him. And then Brandon then goes, well, Universal Monsters are free for all right now. And we go, oh, cool. Let's just redress those, pull those 10 times
Nice.
further than their concept. And so now I had this whole buttload of people that I could use as villains. And then that's where then me and Brandon go, hey, why don't we just make them a society? That's what we thought about the Night Tribes. And that's why we said, okay, the vampires are on the top. They're the royalty. The werewolves on the bottom. They are the rough, tough ones. And so as a writer, you always ask why. You never just say, oh, that's a cool idea. Okay, let's go with it. You go, okay, so why? And they go, well, royalty, they got high-tech medicine so they can control the frenzy whenever they turn. The werewolves, they're lower class. They don't have that medicine. Now we have a way to talk about society, right? And so the werewolves always go into a frenzy. Werewolves have a history of wife killing husband killing kids and stuff. Not because they hate each other, but because they frenzy and couldn't control. And that led into all these other things. Well, what if the Royal Guard, what if their guards go crazy and go turn on the Queen in red? And we go, well, what if there was more technology? So that if one of their soldiers, the royal soldiers went into that, it could constrict them. So that's why I don't you notice I built these big wristbands and boots. Well, those boots, if you look real close, are split in the middle. So that if they ever went into frenzy, they would snap tight, and now they couldn't move or go frenzy out on the road. So anyways, the point there is that we just did that all in one night. Let's go here, let's go here, let's go here, based just on bringing it back to Navy SEALs. And and this is the best. I can now say it. One of my cousins, her husband is one of the original captains in SEAL 6, in Team 6.
Wow.
And so this was during, if I remember right, Wetworks was right at the beginning of Wetworks was about the time of the Iraq War when it first started. I remember watching the news and waiting to see missiles going by. And he just told me that, well, he had retired to desk work. And then he just told me that he got an offer to go back into full duty, but with this new team. And he can't tell us what they're doing, but they're going to be doing different things. And what they were talking about, he later on told me, was they were already at that point planning what's his face's capture of Baghdad, and they were already even talking about Osama. And so he would be there every Christmas at our Christmas parties. And I told him about this, and I go, can you give me any things, theorems of battle or whatever? And he told me almost everything I got in Wetworks is there. Where if you look real close, Wetworks are two strike teams, a heavy gun and what I called an assassin, a light gun guy. And then you had right behind it artillery, which was Mother, and then you had God, which was Maritza as a sniper. And then he goes, that's how we work. We work in two teams and overlapping. So I just took that exact structure, and you could see that structure later on in the Navy SEALs movie with what's his face, Charlie, right?
Yeah.
It's the exact layered double thing. And then he gave me the last thing. We always like to have a gosh, what did he call it? It wasn't Joker, it was something like that. But he said they always like to have a safeguard because they like layered. And so he helped me figure out, well, Dane's he's not going to just sit on the hill and watch this all happen. He's going to be on the field so that if anything happens, he could butt in, which is why then I did that first little short story of him running in to kill the target with a knife, and then all these enemies around him just dying, and him not even flinching because he knows his back is had. He knows, his six is covered. And that's how Wetworks was done. It was just all done there. And then I just drew it. And then Brandon would voice tape the next story. I would take the voice tape and I would say, no, go push here, push back here. I want to use this thought and this scene here. And then he would rewrite it, and then I would draw it. And we just bulldozed everything. And Jim is like that too. And Scott is like that too. So one thing I want to say too is that that's actually what happened with Bishop too.
Speaking of that, if you don't mind me asking, that was the other question that I had when you took over X-Men at 281. It starts off. I mean, what a way to start off. You got Jean Grey. Right off the bat, like Charles Xavier's dead. He was the first one to go. Like, we don't know what's going on. You got the mutants come through the portal. You find out Gambit is the last remaining mutant. Like, at that time, did you know that it was going to get to the point where they were going to take Wolverine's adamantium and Onslaught was coming and it was going to be all based on Legion? Did they have it fleshed out that far in advance?
See, this is what I was going to say. That's the point of what I was going to say about Bishop.
Okay, sorry.
And that's what no. And that's a good exclamation point, because that also then ties in everything I've been repeating, that you got to let the monsters loose, us monsters loose, right? Yeah. Because we know the audience, and so let me put it this way: San Diego Comic-Con. I don't you guys remember the Norton Mall over there, and they had a Marie Callender's over there. So here we're invited for an X-Men lunch. So Rob's there, I'm there, Jim there, Bob Harris is there. And as I remember it, and it's funny because Rob says he doesn't remember that he was the one who said this. But we're all eating, and then Rob goes, Nathan Christopher Cable. That's all he said. And we all looked at each other and we go, And then we looked at Bob, and Bob goes, go for it, guys. And then we all just went for it. We didn't have these 12-hour meetings together with a stenographer. It was okay, we'll have Nathan kidnapped into the future. All right, Rob, take him in the future. We just gave each other these big breaks and we just trusted each other to do it.
Yeah.
And to go for it. Because again, it's comics. We have a little waggle room, right? if one of us just totally screws up and Bob's pissed off, we have a little bit of waggle room where, okay, we didn't really see his dead body, right? Okay, quote unquote. But that's what I'm saying. That's what needs to be done now. We have to have a system where you could, like we all of us image guys did, prove that we could talk to an audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether that's 40,000 sales or 55,000 or 70, whatever. And then at that point, they got to say, okay, give us a big broad stroke. Nathan Christopher Cable will approve that, and then you guys go. It's got to be like that. And
it was magic what you guys were making. You turned the page in comic book history.
Yeah.
You know, it was I don't know.
Well, it's also your fault too. I mean, so there's a lot on your shoulder.
Yeah.
So you don't want to make a mistake. And I'll tell you one of our secrets. Okay. Don't believe all the wikis and stuff. It was me and Carl Altstetter who created Bishop. Carl Altstetter, he's a lead toy artist right now for Mattel, but at the time, he was an assistant in the Homage apartment. He was from LA, and so he stayed there, was our gopher guy, but he was of the age. So I wish we had digital cameras, because you'll see Jim going, hey, Carl, what about this? Or me going, Carl, what about this? And if Carl didn't react, we didn't do that. Or if Carl liked it but didn't like the way we did it, you go, well, what about doing it like this?
Mm-hmm.
And then we would follow Carl, because he's our audience. By that time, we were already a little older, and we were now worried about the business side and stuff like that. And you know, Billy, that could pull you out of it, because when you're on the creative side, you got to live and breathe that. You know, you could be breaking up with your love of your life, but you're still thinking about, how do I fix that X-Men thing? How do I fix that scene over there? You know, you just gotta have that room and that space. And I think I give editors not the credit, but I won't pout on editors today that much, because they don't have that power. Back then, Bob Harris could say, that sucks, Whilce, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Or, hey, that's cool. Okay, do it tomorrow. You know, he called me up and he goes, I'm in the middle of 281. He calls me up and he says, you know, everybody's looked at both teams, and Jim has Wolverine, and Wolverine's just blowing up right now, and he's got Storm. You need another X-Men. You're undermanned. You're underpowered. And he goes, oh, I go, okay. Well, what do you want me to do? And he goes, just make him badass. I'll call you in 2 weeks. You know? So he calls me up in 2 weeks, and me and Carl are, you guys don't know this, but the hair, that's Prince. Carl's a huge Prince fan. And I fought for days to do the Jerry curls. But eventually I drew it and liked it, and did that in. And Carl was the guy who came up with the name. The costume was totally from John Ford movies. That's why it was the yellow and the blue. I even wanted to do those huge. Remember those huge sergeant stripes and stuff like that. But that's how we got that cowboy flavor and stuff. And then both of us figured out the rest of the inside story. So me and Carl came up with Bishop and the name and the look. And 2 weeks later, Bob called. I explained to Bob. Bob goes, cool, put him in the next issue. And so I just finished the second half of 281 and figure out in the story with Fitzroy, okay, I'll drop him here. We could do a portal thing. And then Jim, by that time, now came in, and Byrne came in, because Jim and I didn't know how to script. And so it was all that. And then it went, okay? And so from there on to where I left for Image, Jim and I left for Image, it was just short conversations with me and Jim going, okay, should go. There's this going on in my book. And so, okay, And so my point is, the only in-depth conversation was between me and Carl, and that one pitch meeting on the phone with Bob. And then we joined Image, and Marvel was now officially pissed off at us and wouldn't talk to us. And so Buccaneer Bishop, not my idea. A lot of everything that happens as comics is exciting your editor with big broad strokes because he doesn't have the time to just listen to you blather. And if you can't excite him in a few minutes on the phone, it's not going to be exciting to him. So that was the system. I mean, every system has problems, but that was a system back then. And that's what I believe came out with all these really cool stuff that we had. And the whole image thing was a huge example of everything you guys are talking about, in that what's the best thing for a fan, right? You read something, you go, damn, these guys are reading my mind. That's the space you want to be in, right, Billy?
Yep, absolutely, brother.
Art T. Bear says Bishop was his
He
idea.
said Bishop was his idea.
Art T. Bear.
Oh, well, the bear, he gets credit for everything.
He has everything, yeah. All right, one more question, if you don't mind. This is not about comic creation or anything, but a lot of people don't know this. But there was a kind of like a series, like that was a VHS series and stuff that was set up, which is Comic Book Greats with Stan Lee. And a lot of people don't know you were one of the lucky people to have your own episode.
Yes,
with Stan Lee, your own
with some styling
episode.
hair too. He had some styling hair.
Oh, absolutely. It was incredible. Can you just? I mean, number one, what an incredible experience, and you have that documented forever. You have that iconic, legendary moment forever. But like, number one, do you still think about that? And number two, how was it at the time, knowing that, it was all the great, Marvel people that were just about to go to Image, everybody was about to bounce over to Image. But I mean, you're in the same line as like, Bob Kane and, man, just Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Sergio Aragonés. Yeah. I mean, and you're in that library with them. So how amazing was that?
It's always amazing after the fact, because almost anybody who's successful in any field, and the Image guys tenfold, when you're in the middle of it, it's just happening. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was Todd's book first, then it was Rob's book, and we gave each other a month,
Todd,
right?
Rob, together.
Right? Okay, so here it is, Rob's month. His book's out, and San Diego comes around. So we're all going to be all over there supporting Rob and Todd's book. Okay, so again, I repeat, Rob and Todd's book, number one. We're there signing, huge ass line, and everybody is going, where's the cartoon? Who's going to be in the movie? Is it going to be Will Smith, Tom Gray? Where are the toys going to come out? Who's going to make the toys? Is it going to be the Japanese? Oh, is there going to be an anime? And the rest of us are going, we're not even even finished our first issue yet.
Yeah.
And you just get, you have to corral that a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm the creative guy, and I just want to stay creative. So to go straight to your point, every year I went to the Philippines for 1 month during Christmas, right? Christmas in the Philippines is like, Christmas starts in October, okay? So I'm there in the Philippines. No. I'm ready to leave my house to go to LAX. And Jim calls up and he says, hey, Will, something's happening. And I can't tell you right now. It's not final, but when you come back, let me know if you want to do it. I go, okay, it's Jim wanting to, be king of the world again and machinations. And I get on the plane, have my fun there, and I come back, and I get to the house, and Jim calls up and then says, oh, Will, there's a limousine to take us to LA, and I'll tell you about it in the limousine. So he picks me up in the limousine, and we're on our way to LA. I find out later on we're on our way to Beverly Hills. And I'm a boy racer, so I would go in between San Diego and LA. So I go, oh, shit. But we make it in great time to Beverly Hills. on the freeway. It takes another 3 hours to get off of the freeway to get to where we are. So by the time we get there, and now he's told me it's a Stan Lee thing, but he says it kind of like that. It's a Stan Lee thing, and we'll be doing interviews. And I'm going, oh shit, man, I don't know. I don't know if I could put two sentences together.
Yeah.
And I can't think. I just got off the plane, and he goes, oh, no. We get there. It's a studio behind a Kmart. And we're going, what is this? But then when we walk in, it's a full setup enclosed editing box and everything. And Stan's there, blah, 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 and we get into the makeup, and then everybody needs to go on stage because they're gonna tell you what this is like, and it's gonna be your segment next. And then so I get up there, sit there in the seat, they give me my cue, and they go, okay, we're just gonna blab this, and we'll edit it later on, okay? And so Stan will just take you somewhere, and you just go the flow with Stan, right? And I'm now shaking, but the Philippines is like that. It's called writing in the Philippines. Somebody will say something, and you just take it, and you just take it, and you just take it, okay? And so I just came back from the Philippines, but I'm fearful because there's Stan, right? And I've never really met him, and he's there, and he looks a little tired because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you know he's old. He was old back then. He was old now. And the line manager goes, see this? It's a 45-minute segment. It's 45, 35, 30. So go. It's a countdown, so that by the time I get down here to 0, the segment's over. Okay. And then she goes 5, 4, 3, 2. It flips it to 45, and Stan wakes up. And he starts talking, and a great characteristic of a talker is he looks at you, and he looks to see if you're lost or if you can ride, and that's the brilliance of Stan. He remembers anything and everything, and he remembered anything and everything about me, and he just made sure we kept riding, you know, and it was just fun. And so before I know it, you know, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And that scene where we're waking Stan up. Well, we were doing a break in between each other's segment, and Stan fell asleep. So we woke him up, and we said, "Hey, Stan, let's do this." And we refilmed it for the video. And so the only other thing I can tell you is that, you know, like 5 o'clock or so, we get off, and the producers go, "Oh, you know, we can't have you riding home for 2 hours back to San Diego, so we'll check you into the hotel." So they bring us to this big hotel. I can't even remember what it was. And here I am. I'm what, 21, 22 or something like that. And here I am in Beverly Hills in a big starred hotel in the wedding suite at 5 o'clock in the morning. Can't even call somebody up and say, "Hey, come over. You wanna," you know, because it's 5 o'clock. You know, well, I just sat there going, "What a waste! What a waste!" But it'll be a story I can say, you know. But yeah, no, again, it goes to the point too, to answer your question, that when these things happen, it just happens, and it's only after the fact that you go, "Oh shit, Stan is cool," and Stan paid it back to me in hordes, because we would bump into conventions. I'm always with my wife. I introduce him to my wife. Every time we see each other, it's Stan going, "Joe," my wife. You know, not me, but remembering and respecting my wife by calling her out. You know, he was a brilliant guy.
Those videos
That's
were so
amazing.
fun to watch too. I just
bought
love it.
them
Like,
too.
There's a lot of
he was like,
gems in those
"Why do you put all
videos.
this stuff on them? Why are you guys drawing all this stuff? Why do they gotta have so?" It was just, I loved it because, like, you know, you could tell he respected all you guys, you know, and but he was having fun with it because he also understood, like, it's a different generation, it's a different style, you know. But it cracked me up. I loved it.
Well, that's how him and Stan worked, right? Remember?
Yeah.
Am I right? Right? They would talk on the phone, and then Jack would draw what he remembered, and Stan would fix it.
Yeah.
God,
And-
man,
and again, that's
amazing,
that's a template.
amazing.
Yeah, what wonderful times.
I think
What
that's a
wonderful
template because
times.
as great as tight as me and Brian work with each other,
Mhm.
we allow each other to play around still, to drop in that magic, extra magic that might just come in, later on while we're doing something.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
we
think
look forward.
That's magic, man.
Yeah, we look
Yeah.
forward to everything you guys have coming out into the future, and many new backers tonight. We got you guys a few more backers from the stream,
Cool.
which is great. You're
Thank you.
$180 away from breaking the $23,000 mark. Just hoping to get
Cool.
you guys
Thanks,
there
man.
tonight. But we're all looking forward to the omnibus, and we're all looking forward to all the new stuff that's coming out, that you've got coming out, Brian, and you've got coming out, Whilce. And man, really thank you guys for coming on. It's been great hanging out and chatting,
Absolutely.
and
Oh, thanks, guys.
really
It's a
looking
privilege.
forward to everything. It really is a privilege, an absolute honor.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Back at you.
Seriously, big fans here. So
Yeah,
this
and
is,
anytime you guys want to come on,
Too big of a
anytime.
fan.
yeah.
Cool.
Me and Blevins will look like two little girls after we get off.
Dude.
Like, oh my god!
You should have heard us before you guys came on. It was pretty awesome. Like, I mean, again, this is like one of those legendary moments for all of us,
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Except
could I
not for
share
Billy.
something?
This is a Tuesday for Billy. Like,
Yeah.
he knows everybody.
Well, real quick though, everyone out there, grab the link. It's in the chat. It's in the description of the show. Please share on all your social media, your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, whatever you're using. If you're a fellow streamer, do the same and share the campaign for Stone Omnibus by Whilce Portacio and Brian Haberlin. And crank it out, man. Let them know why
And thank you,
Indiegogo is a
guys.
great
Thank
crowdfunding source. Really,
Yeah.
show them why this is a great platform. And we want to see more coming out from all of our heroes, our legends, the guys that inspired us, because they're still cranking stuff out and still better than 90% of other stuff. And I'll leave it at that. But absolutely, Bailey.
Absolutely, Nile. Hey, can I just say something real quick? I want to give a nod. Like I said, like Whilce, you're one of my favorite comic artists of all time. I have so many of your books, and I never had you sign anything. But and it really is a privilege. It's always a privilege when I'm fortunate enough to sit next to you at conventions and all, and we have a good time. But I also want to thank Brian. So I want to share something real quick if I can. I'm going to share my art.
Is that nudie
campaign
pic? Don't do the nudie pic.
What?
Where are their hands?
Where'd he go?
No. So I want to share the omnibus campaign because Brian Haberlin played a huge part in the She omnibus, and this is our first omnibus. It's the first 16 issues of She, and we had a pretty good thing going on. I mean, this is the first issue. She was hand colored by Barry Orkin, hand painted, beautiful. Let me go to some other stuff here. This is issue number 4 of She. We started getting to the computer coloring. I might have an issue number 3. That's not issue 4 too. But then along came Brian Haberlin, and Brian is the one responsible for this. You just changed the whole entire look of the comic, with your extraordinary colors and how easy you were to work with to work with, and how you taught me so much. And I just love you, buddy. I got to tell you. And I mean,
Thanks,
some of my favorite images I did with you of She, and I'm just so privileged. It really is. I mean, this is another one of yours. This is yours right here. And it's just, man, thank you, bro. Just thank you so much.
No, thank you, buddy.
We had a good time.
Hey, I gotta say,
right?
If there wasn't She, there wouldn't have been a Witchblade.
Oh, that's definitely true. I know that. Everyone knows that. But anyway, guys, please, everyone. All right, so I'll stop sharing and let's go back to.
Yeah, actually, if I could just take a little, I don't want to hold you guys up too much longer, but Jasper Plan 9 had a good question. I was meaning to ask. I asked Brian about what he created for Witchblade. I mean, you're a co-creator of that series, which again is just another influential series that was on a lot of us back in the 90s. Could you tell us a little bit about that before we go? Would you mind?
Well, I mean, it was again, Billy had She was a big hit, and Brian had Lady Death that was a big hit at the time, and the Top Cow, we decided, well, we need to get our female superhero going, right? And David Wall and myself went down to the pier in Santa Monica because our studio was down in Santa Monica, and I had a great fondness for Elric and the Eternal Champion, and a weapon that kind of has its own brain and maybe isn't necessarily good and stuff. And let's do that and do it with a woman that, because I came from TV, so I thought procedural. It's like, let's give her a job that we can have other stories come out of the job. Initially, she was going to be a firefighter, and then we changed to a detective, would have more side things that could make, if you're not going to do, because I like the idea of having the superpowers, but not necessarily have to have them active in every storyline, so you have real, genuine, personal stories driving things. And that was David Wall and I hashed that out, and then I just finished the miniseries with Mike Turner, the Ballistic miniseries, which I had Wetworks guesting in as well, and then Mark came in and gave his little bits and bobs, and let's launch it out of the crossover with Cyblade She.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I wrote our side of the Cyblade She thing with David Wall, and we introduced Witchblade through that, and then co-wrote the beginning episodes and stuff of the issues, and that was it. I mean, we just we love the Eternal Champion, the dark weapon that can you can't really necessarily control. I always love that idea of and it's not like the Green Lantern ring. Okay, it's going to do everything I want it to do. It's going to say, nah, maybe not this time.
I can't believe I never saw the Michael Moorcock stuff in there.
Yeah.
I just never put two and two together.
Witchblade
and
the gems are chaos, order, and neutrality.
Yeah. Huh. That's amazing.
Now, what was your thought on when they adapted it for TV? Did you have any part in consulting for that?
Cal at that point.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the bad part about that whole deal was on the business side was, Yancey had, a bit of a substance problem, and Warner Brothers was charging TNT a high price for the show, but we built it because the ratings were fine. Mm-hmm. And we built Witchblade from the get-go to be like, it's the weapon. So if this actor isn't going to be the actor anymore, there can be another Witchblade because this is the Witchblade, not this person, right? So you can move it on to somebody else,
Not Sarah, going
like
to somebody else.
Doctor Who thing, right?
Yeah.
Could have been Blevins, you don't know.
No, definitely could not be. Dude, man, what's up, dude? Witchblade's female.
But it just it didn't. They didn't. There was a war between TNT and Warner Brothers at the time, and they're like, screw you, and that's why I didn't. I can't imagine why it's not on the air right now.
I mean, with all the streaming services and it being a dark story already, you would think it would be perfect.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on and why it's not on the air somewhere right now.
Crazy.
Well, there's a lot of great IPs and things from Image that from all the Image and all the other publishing houses affiliated that I'm surprised aren't adapted yet.
Yeah,
I feel like they could give the MCU a run for their money personally, but that's me.
Well, again, a lot of those things just keep around because I've had Sonatas with Ridley Scott. We went through the whole development process there. I got other properties at other places, and it's just it still is lightning in a bottle. Getting something from that. Yes, we want to do it, and actually getting it made somewhere. I mean, I never announce half the time I get development deals places because I'll announce it when I'm on the set and we're shooting. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Don't jinx it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
even Stone was greenlit at Sony to be a movie, and the reason it got pulled eventually was it was right when Columbine happened, and Stone was very much more kind of Highlander-esque, where you kind of killed the person for the Agamats and stuff. And Amy Pascal, who ran the studio, was like, yeah, we really can't kind of do that right now.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, if I can, thank you guys for doing what you're doing, because there's that little thing on, I don't know if you guys probably know it, on the internet, like Finch will get on and do stuff, and he'll get like, in the beginning he got like 10K, right, or 15K, and now he's got a little bit of a bump right now. Jim has his Twitch, I think, and it's okay. And then you go to like Proco on YouTube and he's got 200. Now Finch has to join him. It's the crowd, right? That's my point. It's not necessarily okay. Here are the big guys, and they can give you real tips. And I think one of the things is, like film in the beginning, it's the audience interpretation of film, of comics, that it's not that complicated. It doesn't take that much time and thought. And so I'm a film guy, and I remember when film rose into that art form stature, it was after these shows, like the Actors Guild roundtables. They would bring actors over there, and then they'd have a host who actually knows his shit and will not ask him, okay, so how did you feel when, Michelle Pfeiffer didn't get the role and you weren't going to kiss her, But they would ask these because they knew about filmmaking. They would ask these production. So I saw in the script that you didn't have this one scene that's like canon right now. How did that scene come up? And then to hear how on the spot, like a Coppola who likes to do that on the spot and rehearse and figure things out, how that happens, and it just elevates things. Oh, wow, these guys are always thinking. These guys are, oh, that was a brilliant solution. And I don't think enough of that happens for comics. I don't think enough of it happens where, okay, so, like Billy, because he's done millions of shit too. He can go and, oh, well, what about this? I know how hard it is to do this. So how did that come about? And I think more and more, if we can get all these shows like your guys are on that level where we ask the next step questions. We don't just reiterate you do have to, with some of your audience, introduce us. But after that, because of your interest in your fan history with your guests, then go, okay, what about that? That seems to be the hardest thing to have done. How did that ever come about? I think the more we can elevate the field, the more higher up we can get. And then, Finch's, or anybody else's YouTube numbers then can go up there with everybody. Because again, I go back to end of the 90s, X-Men selling to 400. Today, what's X-Men selling? Not 400 on a regular basis. And 400 would just help. Marvel won't be pinching at your rates. Us artists won't be, griping about it. We'll just be, we go, oh, well, we got that. We got royalties now because the number's up there. And so we'll just, like back in the day and back in the Image days, 24 hours, creative, great, 24 hours. My wife can handle the house. My wife has agreed to handle the house. They handle the kids, handle the bills and stuff like that. I don't need to see any of that. I just could be brilliant. I can just create. I can just have fun with my friends, Brian and Billy.
Well, the problem is the corporations don't allow it anymore.
Oh, really?
They don't allow it. It's all, it's all for whatever direction they want to go in. Whatever's going on in the world politically, whatever, they seem to be focused on a certain route that doesn't allow really the freedom of creation anymore unless you fall within these lines. And that's the perception of how it's done. And that's where, I think a lot of pros, you see are migrating over, at least getting their feet wet, in here, because it's like almost like, all right, here I'm on this ship, but I need to make sure I have somewhere to go because the ship's the ship may hit that iceberg over there, and I might have to find another route, or it's just that I think like that, and that era of 400,000 copies being sold isn't coming back. Personally, I don't. I think it's now more of the niche boutique market of just sell directly to your fans, because corporations just took over. They did. They really did. They bought out, and it almost seems like they're more like, hey, that person's a good writer. They go with the times. People are going to like them. No one's going to point fingers at us, and we might even get a movie script out of it. Let's bring that person on. To me, I feel like it's almost like farming for the next movie script with some comics and stuff. When you look at these big publishers, I could be wrong. Again, it's just my opinion of what I'm seeing, but I definitely think those days are long behind us, and I don't think they'll ever come back. Plus, with technology, people are getting why do I have to read something when I can watch it? And they're getting this binge-worthy entertainment. It's like adapting.
It's hard too because just the price point too.
Yeah, the price point.
If a book's going to cost you $4.99 or $3.99, you can subscribe to a streaming movie service that has things from amazing. They give you a lot more time bang for your buck. Not saying more entertainment, but
in the end, even in the point of like making a good living, right, off of making comic books, is you don't have nowadays. You don't even have to be part of selling the 400,000. 10,000 backers can garner $1 million crowdfunding campaign, which has been proven. In Ethan Van Sciver's campaign, he's broke over $1 million. Whether you like the guy or not, he's a businessman. He's made his decisions on how he wants to run his business, but he crowdfunded and broke over $1 million. Even guys that are, Billy's is breaking, you're approaching mid 6 figures, with your campaigns. I mean, they're constantly growing, and you don't have to sell 400,000 copies, a million copies. You just sell directly to your fans. But what it is, again, though, is, like this beautiful omnibus of She. I mean, this is a high quality book. I mean, you're giving the fans something they want, and again, they're part of the journey. And that that brings up a good question too. Jasper Plan 9 asked, Whilce and Brian, do you plan on maybe even starting your own YouTube channel and maybe documenting some of your journeys and trying to maybe interact some more with your fans?
Well, I have my tutorials that I put up and stuff. I mean, again, it's probably about hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Wilson's blog? Wilson's
what stupid question, Jasper. Don't make me ask that again.
And that's definitely true. There's only so many hours in the day.
There is.
Because so much. I mean, again, when you're the one person shop or the very small shop, you got to promote. You got to do the business part. You got to do the creative part. You got to do
And when the business part's working, when the business department's working, the art department's not.
Yeah. Or when you're just sitting there doing promo for something that you need to do pages on, it's like, Well, I would like to do more of that stuff. And I think part of it is being in a rhythm,
Yes. Yeah.
And like when I tell people, because I often preach, how to be a publisher of your own comics, stuff like that. And it's like when I tell people social media, have a month of social media already done and in the bag that then you can post, and then you can also take the week off, or if you got sick or whatever, so there's a lot of planning involved. Again, it's hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And some people don't know that Marvel Wildstorm in those first 3 years, we were 24 hours. I would regularly put Wetworks to bed like 3:30 in the morning. And a quarter of the studio would still be there.
Yeah, when I joined down there, my wife was with me, and I met Mark, and Lee's wife was there, and Mark's significant other was there, and I think Scott Williams' significant other was there, and they said, to my wife, "Hi, welcome to the Image Comics Widows Club."
Oh no!
You're not going to see your husband again.
Well, we got a great comment here. Great show, guys. Whilce and Brian are awesome guests. Whilce is right. Need more of the behind the scenes of comics. Billy also does a great job as a historian of comics. Thank you all for what you do. Well, thank you all for watching. And again, thank you, Whilce and Brian, for joining us. Please, you're more than welcome. If you guys want to come on, talk comics, talk process, have some fun, you're always more than welcome to come on the show.
Because we're going to start having more hangout streams and just talk about if something happens that week or that day. Hey, you want to pop on for an hour, 45 minutes, half hour, whatever, and just talk about it, and just get like you were saying, Whilce, get an insider's POV on it, get a pro's POV on what we're thinking of these things, because the fans go crazy, Twitter goes nuts, you know what I mean? And but what are the actual people making the comics feel about it? So.
Yeah, and it also raises the bar for people coming in too, because with Ryan Benjamin and Alex Sinclair and Carlos, we have workshops, and we have a lot of great students, but there are a lot of misconceptions on how easy it is, and especially the misconception of that it doesn't take that much time. And we all know that it takes every bit of 24 hours.
Yeah.
Every bit of 24 hours. So raising the level on the bar of everything, I think will just even help into the future for new people to realize, if you can lie yourself out of any situation, you have a great place in comics. You got to have that fast mind.
That's a great. We'll put that quote in the description of the show. That's perfect. Well, again, everyone, check out Stone Omnibus by Whilce and Brian. It is now live on Indiegogo, and it's on in demand right now. It's a rollover, so if you can, head on over and back it. They're $180 away from breaking that $23,000 mark. So let's smash that tonight. If you guys can help share that on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make it happen for them. And again, let's dive into another great series. If you're new to it, back it. If you're a fan of it from the 90s, back it. Just back it. Trust, it's a good book. It's a great source of inspiration between the writing and the illustration. We don't steer you wrong here on Crowdfunding Comics, so definitely check that out. And everyone, thanks so much again. Whilce, thank you so much for coming on. You've been a true inspiration to me as a creator since I can remember. The same with Brian, and of course my good pal Billy Tucci. All you guys came into my life before you ever even met this face.
Legendary.
Everyone, have a great night. Thanks again. And like we said, whenever you want to come on the show, or if you want to promote anything, hit us up. And
anytime,
we'll see you
guys. Seriously, anytime. Come on with me, Brian, and Nile. Anytime. We'd love to have you on.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be back on tomorrow night. We've got another great creator hanging out with us, talking about his campaign. So keep an eye out for those ads on your social media outlets. And everyone, have yourselves a great night. Be safe. And for some of you, it's way past your bedtimes, I'm sure. So have a good night, everyone. We'll talk to you later.
Good night, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey everyone! Thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button, and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP, and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you soon.